The truck pulling into the lot at 6:40 this morning has 214,000 miles on the odometer. There's rust creeping along the wheel wells, and a hairline crack in the windshield that's been there since early spring. If it passed by in the next lane during morning traffic, no one would give it a second look. But that invisibility is the point, because behind the wheel is the person who actually owns the company. 16 years running the same operation. Yet nothing about the work boots, the faded canvas jacket, or the measured tone of voice gives anything away. And certainly not the truck parked outside. To the crew, it's just the boss. To the customers, it's the person they call when a basement is flooding or a water heater gives out on a Sunday night. No one looks twice. And nobody uses the word wealthy. Yet by this evening, after a full day spent between a clipboard and a toolbox, the net worth behind that faded jacket will sit quietly at $3.4 million. And virtually no one encountered throughout the day, not the crew, not the clients, not the cashier at the local supply counter, will have any idea. That outcome isn't luck, and it isn't an accident. It's the compounding result of 16 years of quiet, steady discipline. And this is what that reality looks like, hour by hour. Across the American workforce, self-employed individuals make up less than 20% of all workers. Yet when researcher Thomas Stanley spent 3 decades analyzing the country's high net worth households, the data revealed something striking. That same small minority accounts for nearly 2/3 of all American millionaires. In fact, the statistical odds of building that level of wealth through business ownership are roughly 4 times higher than relying on a traditional paycheck. These aren't Silicon Valley tech founders. They aren't raising venture capital. For the most part, these are operators in industries that rarely attract attention. Commercial plumbing, HVAC, auto repair, small-scale distribution. Unglamorous, steady, profitable in a way that never makes headlines. Statistically speaking, this kind of success is an entirely predictable outcome. There is no dramatic twist waiting at the end of the day, just another Tuesday, structured precisely like thousands of Tuesdays before it. And by the end of it, the mechanism becomes clear. That relentless repetition isn't just routine, it is the entire strategy. You're at the shop before your first guy shows up. You make coffee in a machine that's older than some of your employees. Before anything else, you sit down at a metal desk and knock out 3 invoices from yesterday's jobs. This is the part people never picture when they imagine a millionaire's morning. No standing desk, no skyline view. Just paperwork. Done immediately. Because you learned early that money left uncollected doesn't compound. It just sits there, quietly not becoming anything. Once a month, on the same day, a fixed amount moves out of the business account into a SEPRA, the retirement account built specifically for people like you. Self-employed, no employer to match anything. You set the number years ago and you haven't touched it since, except to raise it twice, both times after a genuinely good year. You don't check it today. You don't check it most days. It's not indifference. It's the exact opposite. The system was built to require 0 ongoing decisions, designed purposefully after watching too many profitable months get spent by operators who forgot to pay themselves first. A supplier mentions, almost in passing, that a competitor down the road just leased 3 brand new work vans. Full custom wraps, GPS tracking, the works. You nod. Genuinely, it sounds nice. Yet that truck with 214,000 miles stays in service for at least another year. Not from a lack of capital. A check could be written today without blinking. It's simply the absence of an instinct to spend on things that don't generate a return. A truck that arrives on time does the job just as effectively at 214,000 miles as it did at 40,000. Here is the fundamental divide researchers encounter when studying high-income earners. 2 individuals can generate virtually identical revenue, yet land in completely opposite financial realities. The first group spends in direct proportion to their earnings. The surplus becomes a newer vehicle, an upgraded home, frequent dinners out. Researchers categorize them as under-accumulators of wealth. On the surface, The appearance of success is complete. On a balance sheet, the net worth is standing completely still. The other group continues living roughly the way they always have, allowing the widening gap between revenue and lifestyle to flow directly into compounding assets. Researchers call them prodigious accumulators of wealth. From the outside, the two profiles can look completely indistinguishable. The same residential neighborhood, the same haircut, the same practical vehicle parked in the driveway. The only true difference is invisible, quietly compounding in accounts that are never brought up in casual conversation. That discipline began back around age 26, when the entire operation was a single truck and a business card designed by hand. There was no formal economic term for it at the time. The only driving rule was simple: never owe anyone a single dollar. Midday, one of the younger technicians, sharp, skilled with clients, 2 years on the job, asks how the business actually began. The answer is the direct, unglamorous reality. A modest initial loan, operating out of a residential garage for the first 2 years, and taking virtually no personal salary until the cash flow could genuinely support it. The reaction is subtle disappointment. He was looking for an accelerant, a modern shortcut. There simply isn't one to offer. What exists instead is 16 continuous years of fundamental execution. Showing up early, billing accurately, and refusing to deploy capital on unnecessary overhead. It makes for an underwhelming story at a dinner party. But on a balance sheet, it is a vastly superior reality to live. Let's go back to that competitor with the 3 new vans, because the math underneath it is the actual point of today. A branded lease like that typically runs a few $100s a month per vehicle once you account for the payment, the wrap, the higher insurance. Multiply that by 3 trucks over years, and you're not looking at a marketing expense anymore. You're looking at money that could have sat in an account compounding instead, quietly becoming a second employee's salary, or a down payment on the building you rent, or exactly the kind of number sitting in your SEP IRA right now. You're not against nice things. You bought yourself a genuinely good pair of boots last year because your feet are in them 10 hours a day and it mattered. That's the actual filter, not cheapness, just a running question in the back of your mind about whether something makes your life or your business better, or whether it just makes it look better to someone else. There's a version of this story where the invisibility costs you something, where nobody respects the guy in the old truck. That's not really what happens. Customers trust you more, not to sell them anything beyond the job itself. Suppliers give you better terms because 16 years of on-time payments is worth more to them than a shiny logo. The competitor with the 3 wrapped vans is spending real money convincing strangers he's successful. You spend nothing convincing anyone of anything, and somehow, everyone who actually matters to your business already knows. That's the part almost nobody accounts for when they're calculating the cost of looking wealthy. It's never just the payment. It's everything that payment quietly stops you from becoming instead. So what's actually repeatable here? Because the point was never that you happen to run a plumbing company. The habits underneath it travel to almost anyone. Habit 1. Pay the business before you pay yourself. The fun version. Invoices get sent the same day the job finishes, every time, no exceptions. Cash that's owed to you and hasn't been collected isn't wealth. It's just an idea of wealth, floating around unprotected. Habit 2. Automate the one decision that matters most. The retirement contribution happens the same way every month, whether business was great or just okay. You never trust a future version of yourself to remember to do it manually. You already know that version gets busy. Habit 3. Separate useful from impressive. Before any purchase for the business, one quiet question runs in the background. Does this make the work better, or does it just make it look better? The boots passed that test. The van wrap never did. Habit 4. Let the boring version compound. You've had exactly one job title, one business name, and mostly one truck for 16 years. Nothing about that sounds exciting to tell someone at a wedding. It's exactly why it worked. Tonight, Closing out, you count the cash drawer, log tomorrow's jobs, and lock the shop the same way you have for years. It doesn't feel like the ending of a wealth-building story. It just feels like Tuesday. That's the whole trick. It was never supposed to feel like anything else. At home, your kid asks why you never got one of the new trucks like the guy who redid their kitchen down the street drives. You give them the short version, the one that doesn't sound like a lecture. That truck's not going to help us. This one still does everything we need. They shrug, mostly satisfied, back to their homework. It's not a big moment. It's not supposed to be. It's just one more small sentence in a life built almost entirely out of small, forgettable sentences like it. Later, after the house goes quiet, you glance at the business account on your phone for maybe 10 seconds. The number is a little higher than last month. It usually is. Not because of any single decision today, because of about 6,000 ordinary days that all looked almost exactly like this one, stacked on top of each other until they became something. You put the phone down. Nobody's waiting to be told about it. Nobody needs to be. Tomorrow, the truck starts the same way it always does. The windshield's still cracked. The invoices still go out same day. And somewhere in that repetition, not despite it, because of it, is the entire explanation for the $3.4 million nobody at the job site will ever suspect is there. The real question was never what it takes to become the quiet millionaire. It's whether you'd be willing to look this unremarkable for 16 straight years to actually become one.